You want me to start, Tina? I'm
Sure.
starting. Okay. Oh my gosh. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We are so much better together, and we have combined some Teams calls tonight. I was in Vegas and with many of you and heard from the amazing Tina Melsom, and she did this talk on stage about how everything she learned about network marketing, she learned in kindergarten, and it just blew our socks off. And I said, would you train our team? And then we realized our team calls are at the same time. And so we decided, let's just all do it together and also get a great recording of this awesome talk for those of you who weren't there. So I wanted to give Tina Melsom a proper introduction. Pretty much, I think I could sum it up this way, and then I'll formally introduce her. But it seems like the more fun Tina Melsom has, the more successful she is. So I just have so appreciated your mentorship, Tina. You are let me just tell people about you, and I just think the world of you. So thank you so much for helping me these last few months. I'll never forget my first day in the business, and we hadn't really ever officially met, but you gave me a little phone call, and that meant the world to me. And so Tina Melsom is a premier director here, you guys. That's the tippy top. In less than a year, the tippy top here at APL Go, alongside her amazing husband, Kelly Vincent. She is a master socialpreneur. That's what I'm saying. She specializes in helping people, get this, make money, socializing, building relationships, and growing teams through online and offline marketing strategies. She is a speaker. She is, of course, a successful mompreneur. She's a business coach and top female income leader and earner who's been in network marketing for over a decade. And we get her. She has won several awards for being a top leadership and recruitment trainer. She holds a bachelor's in deaf education from Fresno State, and she's worked with great leaders such as Jack Canfield, Robert Kiyosaki, Todd Falcone, Bernie Kosar, and Michael Irvin. You guys, this is amazing. Tina is an author for Networker magazine, and she has spoken on stage with greats like Brian Tracy and Les Brown. Okay, so basically, as I see it, Tina, you are wicked smart, wicked fun, and completely unstoppable. Thank you for pouring into us tonight.
Thank you. Wow, that was the best intro ever in my whole life. That was so awesome. Thank you so much. A few years ago, I can say, gosh, it has to be 6 years ago now. You know, I've been in network marketing actually on the 17th. So what is that, tomorrow? 15 years in network marketing. So I didn't plan on joining network marketing. I didn't know network marketing was a whole industry. This woman walked in my store, a stranger, showed me this juice. It was gross, sour and bitter and warm. And I was like, people buy this from you? But then she said, well, yeah, and they make a lot of money too. And she slapped down an income disclosure statement. And I looked at it and I was like, yeah, I'm in. I didn't even know and she was only a month old in the company. She didn't know what she was doing. I certainly didn't know what I was doing. And we were like, I guess we'll just do what they're doing. And we just watched them, you know, we didn't have a lot of YouTube back then. We just kind of barely on Facebook and started like talking to people. We were like, hey, there's this juice and it doesn't taste real good, but you can make a lot of money with it. And that's kind of how it started. Of course, eventually you grow to love the juice. Eventually the juice starts tasting like money. And then you're like, okay, I like the juice. Now I'm really loving the taste of this, right? But it wasn't about the juice. It was about the personal development, because I'd been in sales. I was an educator as trained to be a teacher, but I got into medical supplies because teachers didn't make a lot of income. And when my son was very little, we didn't have enough money for me to be a teacher. It wasn't enough. So I went into, I was the vice president of a medical supply company when I stopped, but I started as a secretary. And my only benefit, I didn't even have health benefits. My only benefit was they said I could bring my son with me every day. And you guys know, as a mom, I'm like, that kind of trumps all. So I said, sure, I'll take the job for $11 an hour, right? With no benefits, and bring my son every day. And that's how we started. But I worked my way up to the vice presidency of the company by self-teaching myself whatever the person in front of me had to do. So I was already learning, if I want that person's job, I got to do what they do now. And the longer I keep doing it, eventually I'll just have their job. And I just kept doing that all the way up the chain. Well, I learned the same thing in network marketing. There's always somebody above you doing something you need to be doing. And my mom used to say, dress for the job you want, not the job you have. And I kind of always went along with that. So I joined this network marketing thing, didn't know what was happening. 3 months in, we got a call and from these ladies that said they were our upline. We were like, yeah, what's that? We were so, Sarah was there. Sarah, she knows. Sherry Denny, she knows. We had no idea. Talk about ignorance on fire. And we just started working. But, you know, at about that same time period, a few years back, my mom passed away. And I remember going through all of her stuff. And I found all my old report cards. And they were all not good. Like, not great. You know, they were average, but every single one of them said the same thing. She's too social. She's talks too much. She's chases all the kids in the playground. Well, okay, it was the boys, but she, you know, all those things the teachers say, disruptive, likes to be. And I always used to think, man, if I could just find a way to get paid to like socialize, if I could just find a way to pay to read all day, or if I could just find a way, you know, all those things you think. And when network marketing came along, I recognized it. I'm like, man, they do all these things I love to do and they're getting paid for it. Why would I not do this? So that's how I started. That's how I started in the industry. And I started realizing, actually, as I was going through those report cards, that most of the things, even the graded things, you know how some things were graded and some were pass fail, even those things that were notes were all things that I liked doing. And I was, you know, constantly berated for doing, and now I get paid for it. So network marketing skills, that's when I started thinking about this topic and realized that just about everything I learned about network marketing, I learned in kindergarten. I learned at a very young age, like games and social skills and activities and the habits that you learn day in and day out. I learned all of them basically in kindergarten. And if you just can hone in on those skills and remember what it was like back then, you can do the same thing here. So it all started with making new friends, right? That's where you learn to make new friends. That's where you learn how to communicate with people, you know? And I remember my mom used to say, just go out friend everybody. That's your only job today. Just go to school and make friends and out friend everybody. And it is exactly the same here. I don't wake up in the morning and think, you know, how many people am I going to prospect today? And how many people am I going to enroll today? And how many customers and how many this and that? I don't do that. I wake up and I think, how many friends am I going to make today? Because I truly believe. Now, am I saying that I only enroll my best friends into the business? No, but I don't understand the concept of cold market. And I know that's very different than even some people on my team and even some big leaders in network marketing teach, but I don't know what the cold market feels like, because I feel like the minute I have a conversation with somebody or begin having a dialect, they're not really cold anymore. I love asking questions and asking for, you know, information about them. So, right. So I'm all about warm market leads because that's all I know. The buddy system. I remember early on, I remember thinking, so my girlfriend that introduced me to this business, she is in the top 10 paid in a company called Life Vantage. She's fantastic. We stuck it out. We separated and did separate companies, but we remained friends. We lived about an hour apart back in San Francisco. Now in Arizona, we live less than a mile from each other. So she just spoke at the women's event with Marina Wari in Vegas. And she's fantastic. But I remember thinking many times in my first 3 or 4 years in this business, thank goodness for her. Like, thank goodness I had somebody that I could bounce ideas off of, try new things with, talk about the good things, talk about the bad things, right? If I didn't want to go, you know, back then, a lot of it was home parties. I didn't want to go to people's strangers' houses by myself. I would drag her. And if she didn't want to do it, she would drag me along. And just having that buddy with me to make me feel comfortable. It's like even last night karaoke. Like I don't like singing at all, let alone in public. But when Kelly's with me, I somehow have the courage to do it that I never in a million years would do by myself. You're right. There's something about having that person with you that you knows doesn't judge you and encourages you and is with you through thick and thin. That's what the buddy system's all about. So when I enroll people in APL or in network marketing, I tell them to find a buddy. Sometimes it's your husband, sometimes it's your best girlfriend, sometimes it's a new person you may never even have known before that will become your buddy system. Kelly calls them battle buddies. When we do our training with our elite teams, he always pairs people up into battle buddies because you have to have that person, but you also have to have that accountability, right? It's too easy. People always say, wow, the things you do every day seem so easy. They are easy, right? But things that are easy to do are also easy not to do. So that accountability partner will keep you on the right track to doing everything you need to do every day. So your first mentor, the first teacher, I can remember I don't remember most of my teachers, but I remember the first one. And because I looked up to her, and she just seemed to know everything about everything. And she was so amazing. And she really held my hand in kindergarten and said, it's okay. I'm here for you. I'm going to show you the ropes. You're not alone. Those are all the things we should be as mentors to people coming into this business. Is we need to be those mentors. We need to not enroll people and then say, okay, here's your list of things to do. Good luck. That's not what this is about, right? You need to act like a mentor to people because they don't know. And it's very easy to get frustrated. Think about when you first started. The product, there's 15 of them. The business, there's 15 ways we get paid and we don't understand 10 of them. There's the company that's in another language. There's the websites and maintaining that. There's the Facebook pages. There's a lot to know here. There's a lot to learn. And if you don't have someone break it down for you and hold your hand through it in the beginning, you're just going to be lost. So be that mentor that you had when you first started. Setting goals. Okay. We all know this. Goals are only goals if you write them down. Could you imagine walking into the kindergarten classroom and the teacher saying, okay, here's what we're doing today. We're doing reading and language arts and math and science and social studies. And we're going to study these pages and these terms and these topics and learn how to spell this and blah, 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 blah. No, they didn't do that. They put it on a board. They put it on a board so you could easily see it, easily know exactly what you need to do to learn it and to accomplish it. And then they check marked it as the day went off. It wasn't hard. We had goals for the week, for the day, and for the month. And I think that's exactly what we do here. I'm not saying you have to spend hours and hours writing down every little detail, but I have a to-do list every day. And it's funny because when I met Brian Tracy for the first time, we were talking about, he was telling me, man, I don't like how all this digital stuff and everything's computerized and he goes, I still write my list on a piece of paper every day and put it in my pocket. And I was like, me too. It's in my purse. I carry a to-do list and it's in pencil and paper. I just do. So it doesn't have to be fancy. It's funny because I've seen people over the years take my daily to-do list and put it in fancy colors and digitize and all these things. And I'm like, thank you for doing that for me, but I'm going to stick to the one that's in black and white with smudges all over it. Do what you're comfortable with, but do write your goals down. It's crucially important. There was a study at Harvard years ago that took the graduating class and they asked how many of them had written down goals, and only 3% physically wrote their goals down on what they want to achieve in the first month, year, 5 years, and 10 years after graduating. They went back to that class later, and that 3% that had written down their goals was making more money than the 97% combined. When you have an action plan daily and you know exactly where you're headed, you will most likely get there. Now, I'm not saying you have to know the time or the date. It's great to put a time and a date because all goals should have a quantifier, but just write it down. Even if it seems ridiculous, just write it down. It's funny, Kelly and I have this table. And it's a stupid story, really. But we went to our very first art and wine festivals when we met 7 years ago. It was one of the first things we did together. And we fell in love with this I don't even know how to describe. It's like an outdoor ceramic-y table. It's got a fire pit in the middle. It's got these cool chairs. I mean, it's ridiculously expensive. And we both were like, yeah, who spends that much on a table? That's ridiculous. But every year for 7 years, we've seen that table. And you know what? Every year we're there, we always take the brochure, even though we have 9 brochures at home with the same table on it. But I've got them on my desk. We've got them in our file cabinet, up on cork boards. They were on a vision board. And guess what? What was that last month? 2 months ago, we bought the table that we'd been looking at for so long. Even if it seems ridiculous, write it down. You never know what you can achieve. The more your mind thinks about it, the closer you get to it. So no talking about your goals and then not writing them down. Very important. So let's talk about some games we met where we learned follow the leader, right? That one is self-explanatory. Follow the leader. Do we have people that think outside the box? Yes. Do a lot of them turn around at some point in time and come back to following the leader? Yes, they do. You know, it's one of the reasons we put together Rapid Funnel, because if everybody's doing something different, how are people supposed to learn what we do if every single person on the team is doing something different? So we created the content for Rapid Funnel for this reason, so that you can easily follow the leader. It's put into 4 steps. Step 1, invite. Step 2, when people say, where do I get started? I say, get started on step 1. It says invite. Invite them to watch something, read something, participate in a survey, to do something. It's all permission based. Most of the texts that are pre-written ask a question at the end. Can I, or if I do this, will you do this? If I send you a video, will you watch it? If I send you a survey, will you fill it out? Can I send you this, right? Permission based, because nobody likes to be surprised with, and then people get surprised when people don't respond. I'm like, did you ask them? They said, I sent out 25 videos and nobody watched it. Did you ask them if it was okay to send them a video? Did you, like, has anybody ever asked you to do you a 90-second favor and you said no? No, of course you're going to, especially if you know them in their warm market. Of course you're going to do it. So follow the leader just means that look at what the leaders have done before you and just follow in their footsteps. It's the same thing I did in corporate America. It's not different. I would look at the person next to me with the higher pay and say, well, what did they do? I guess I'll do that. It's the same thing here. Simon Says, this is where duplication comes in. And what was the best part about Simon Says is that if you're the last one standing, guess what? You get to be the leader. Now you get to say, Simon says, do this, do that, do that. And that's the whole point, is that you don't start as the leader. You start learning from somebody who tells you, if you can even remember that far back, when Simon Says, when you were first introduced to that game, who was Simon? It wasn't you. You've never even played it before. It was the teacher, or it was the older kids on the playground who played it in their first year of school. And then guess what happened? A lot of people dropped out. A lot of people didn't follow all the instructions. A lot of people got tired of jumping on one foot, and the last one standing. And that's sometimes how we feel in network marketing. Isn't that you bring in 20 people and it seems so great, and they all do the first 5 Simon Says things, and then by the 6th or 7th one, there's 8 people that didn't do it. And now they're where are they? And then there's another few that don't, and then there's another few that don't, but there's those 2 or 3 that do, right? And they're fighting for that one Simon position, and they'll do what it takes to be able to be the leader. And that's kind of almost like moving up in ranks here a little bit, right? Is the more you do what the people in front of you have done, the faster you're going to move up in ranks. So show and tell. This to me is the biggest one. This is what we do every single day, every day. And here's what I love about show and tell. You would get to pick your own topic, right? Everybody got to pick their own topic. And when they did, you got to go home, and what did you do? You studied that topic, right? You learned about that topic. You didn't just go stand up and start babbling. Did a little bit of study, did a little bit of learning, waited patiently for your turn. And then you got up and you told them everything, right? You knew about this topic. Now, some people speak in sentences and some people speak in bullet points. And I, even when I was a little kid, I was more like, when I wrote a speech, or when I, had to give a presentation, I never had, like, I'm a terrible writer. I never had full, beautiful sentences it was always bullet points. And I find that people talk the way they write. So I remember getting ready for show and tell, and I would just put all my little bullet points. And then I would get up in front of the room and I would just go over those bullet points on, I remember doing one on my dog. I brought the dog and I talked about the dog for 20 minutes. It's not a hard thing, but you can't just wing it. You have to know something. So do you have to know everything there is to know about dogs? No, you have to know enough to make the kids want to sit still and listen to you talk about the dog. That's it. You don't need to know everything. Do you need to know where to find everything over some point in time with this business? Yes, you do. If somebody asks you for the science, you need to be able to say, I have 3 videos and 2 documents on the science. Would you like me to email them to you? You have to at least know where to find it. Now, could I repeat anything in those science documents? No, not probably even one sentence, but that's okay because they're not expecting that from me. What they're expecting from me is to be able to show and tell, right? Show them where to find it. So after show and tell, what happens? After I stood up and gave my 20 minutes about my dog, what would happen? A little bit of applause, right? And then the hands would go up. Do you remember that? No one ever stood there and didn't ask anything. The hands would go up. And could you imagine being, oh my gosh, they want to know more. They're asking questions. I'm devastated. I'm just going to fall into this pit in the floor and die. No, they're just asking questions. Those are objections. Objections are just questions people don't know the answer to. If they knew the answer, they wouldn't need to ask you. So objections are just questions. And if you're not getting objections, guess what? You lost the sale because nobody buys things without asking questions first. Ever. Have you ever bought a pair of shoes without asking something about them? Do they come in black? Do they come in beige? Do they come in red? Do they come in heels? Can I get them in the right size? No, you have to ask questions to get what you want, right? If I'm buying something, I'm asking questions about it. Same thing here. Don't be afraid of the objections. This is the best part. This is something I say you should learn, the top 10 objections. This is what you do need to know. If somebody says, what's the price point? You can't say, let me send you an email on that. No, you need to know the price points. Same thing with our compensation plan. You need to know enough so that if somebody asks you questions, you can answer it. Now, I have no problem saying I can tell you 5 ways we get paid like the back of my hand. And then there's another 10 ways. I'm just not sure how yet, but we'll figure it out when we get there. I have no problem saying that because that's the truth. Now, another thing I always tell people, just remember the minute you open your mouth, you're training them to be an associate. You don't know if they're going to be a customer or an associate. You don't know that right in the beginning. So if you get up and you say, let me tell you all about the science behind APL Go. We have this centrifuge machine that creates this negative ion energy, and the negative ions, and they're infused into the big, botanicals. The botanicals are they're produced in Israel. And then we take them and we ship them to our 80,000 foot manufacturing plant that Sergey bought in 2004. And don't do that. Don't do that. Highlights. Tell them all the highlights, the things that got you the most excited about this, and then let them ask questions. And as they ask questions and as you share more information with them, this back and forth is what's going to give them confidence to join you. But if you babble on and on and on for an hour about everything, this person, the first thing they're going to be thinking is, man, I thought I might want to be an associate, but I don't know what she knows. And if I have to do that, I'm not doing it. So keep it simple and use visual aids. Remember show and tell, you got to create visual aids with you because people like to look. I like to point at stuff. If I'm saying something about the science, I'm usually pointing at a document or the big, huge 500-page science book because I don't want them to know that I know everything in there. I want them to think she went over some details. She went over some bullet points. I'm kind of excited about it. Well, I can do that. How hard is that? And then she sent me some videos. That's not hard. And that's what you want people to think. So star student, right? Recognition. You got to remember that a lot of people will do this business for recognition, even more so than the money. So if you have people on your team that are here because they love to get recognized. Maybe they're not getting recognition at home. Maybe they've been at the same job for 25 years and they've never been recognized for anything. Like, get to know the people on your team enough so that you know why they're here, because that'll make a big difference in how you recognize people. So that's why we have ranks. First of all, for goal setting, it makes goal setting very easy when we have ranks, and also for recognition. So what we typically do is we like to, when we join a new company, we always start at the top rank and we say, this is the rank we want to hit at some point in time, right? Because like I said, write everything down, and we'll write down, and then we'll write down what we need to accomplish that. How many people, how many diamonds. Now this comp plan is a little more difficult, but you can kind of estimate how many, how many corporate directors do we need? How many managing directors do we need? How many other, national, how many of these other ranks are we going to need to get here? And once we've written that down, then we say, okay, so to get to the one below that, we need this. And to get to one below that, we need this. And we just draw it all out. And then we start at the bottom. That's it. And you just start at the bottom, and we know we'll hit the top if we just consistently follow that goal. But, I love recognition. I love recognizing people. I love when people get surprised when they move up in rank and they didn't even realize it. We get to congratulate them. So do a lot of that on your teams. That means a lot to a lot of people. And some people won't necessarily tell you what their home life is or what their work life is or how much this recognition and these rewards mean to them. So I actually had somebody today, it makes me a little teary. She said she was having a hard week and I had sent her samples, and even just getting those samples just meant the world to her. And I was like, oh, to me, that's what we do. But to have somebody that appreciated it so much, because I don't know what's going on in her personal life or what she's going through. So anyway, do all of these things for your team. It's incredibly important. And actually Rapid Funnel makes it very easy because they have a team leaderboard right at the top. And if corporate is not doing a contest or a reward or a leadership, you do it. You go take the initiative to do that on your team. So I don't need to say much about this. We all know what it's like to say no to a 5-year-old. It's exhausting, and they never give up, and they're persistent. And the minute you say no, then they just come at it from a different angle. And then you say no, and then they come at it from a different angle. And eventually you're like, fine, whatever it is, you can have it, right? It's the same thing with sales. You've got to be persistent. People have so much going on in their lives right now that they might not have time to watch every video you sent at the exact moment you want them to watch it, right? So be persistent. The fortune is in the follow-up. Sales statistic, 48% of people never follow up, and yet 80% of sales are made on the 12th contact. How often do you contact people before you give up? Do you give up the first time they say no? Do you give up the second time they say no, the third, the fourth? Think about it like this. And this is what I learned when this gal, my girlfriend Tara, came and introduced me to network marketing for the first time. She was a stranger. She didn't know me from anybody. She was completely unattached to the outcome of what was going to happen there. And I think about that and I think, man, 15 years ago tomorrow, what would my life look like? What would my life look like had she not had enough courage to walk in and talk to a total stranger about this juice, right? And how many people has your life affected? And how were you affected by someone even on this call with you right now that was persistent? What would your life look like without them? And if that's the case, why aren't you following up with people 7, 8, 9, 10 times? Now, I'll be honest, in APL, the follow-up's not that, it doesn't take that much. By the time they try it and watch 2 videos, they get it. It's not a hard thing. It's not a complicated product or business, and they'll get it a lot faster. So that's why I think people are growing so fast in this company, because it's easy, and it's easy to be persistent here. Okay. So keep it up, keep doing it. Don't give up. Don't be attached to the outcome. Think about the last time you ordered a cup of coffee at a diner. The waitress comes over and says, would you like a cup of coffee? And you say, oh, no, thanks. Does she go running back to the room crying? Oh my God, she said no. She doesn't want my coffee. I'm a failure. No, she does not. How many more times is she going to come back and ask you if you want coffee? Every time you go to that diner, every single time. Okay. She doesn't give up. She doesn't think 3 days later, when you go back to that diner, she's like, oh my gosh, there's that girl. And I asked her if she wanted coffee and she said no. And I'm so afraid to even go look at, I don't even want to walk over to her table, please. Right? And that doesn't happen. That's not the way it is. She's not attached to the outcome of whether you want coffee or not. And at some point in time, you just might say yes. And if she stops asking, guess what? She lost out on that sale. And then graduation. Of course, we all graduated kindergarten, I hope, on this call. I'm going to assume everybody did. Did it ever once cross your mind halfway through kindergarten? I don't know. This kindergarten thing, it's kind of rough. It's not what I expected. It makes me tired. Like, I don't know if I can continue doing this. I need a break. Like, seriously? No, there is no break. We as professional network marketers, there's no break. You don't take a break from your goals. You don't take a break from your consistency. You don't take a break from your accountability. You do what you do because you want to get what you don't have. And that's it. That is the bottom line. That's all there is to it. So don't ever think of quitting. And I'll be honest, there are people that I have not signed up that said, I'd like to join. And I say, no, you already asked me what's going to happen if you're not making money in 4 weeks. To me, that means you're going to quit. And why am I going to spend a month working with you if I already know that your mindset is you're already going to quit? No, don't play that game with people. This is not now, is it okay to say, hey, listen, let's set some goals. If you were to work this business with me for 6 months and follow the leader and do the tasks on the daily action sheet, how much money would you be expecting to make by then? 1,000 a month? A couple thousand a month? Those are good goals. How many days a week are you going to give it? How many hours per day are you going to? It's okay to do that. But if they're already saying, yeah, I'll give it 3 months, that's not a person you want to work with and spend time. And because we do spend time and we do pour into the people on our team because we love this team. And of course we're going to do that, but we're not going to do that for people that are giving it that kind of a time frame, and you shouldn't either. So, all right. And I think that was the last slide. So those are my tips on how to take all those things that you learned when you were really young and just effectively practice them until you are really great at kindergarten skills. And that's what'll build your business here.
Tina, everyone give her a round of applause. Unmute yourselves. That was amazing. I think it was
Good job, Tina.
Hey, I always love this.
Bravissimo, bravissimo.
Oh, I don't know. It was better seeing you
All
on
right.
stage like that, or the second time around. It was so good.
Yeah.
Well, I'm glad you guys really liked it. I'm going to stop the recording because I do want to answer questions.
Yeah, good.
And let's stop the recording.